Good morning. This is me live from my bed, coming at you from my bed. It's like 7 in the morning. I've been up since like 5:45 for no discernible reason. And I just wanted to freestyle something because I'm having one of those moments where I have the urge to say something, but nothing prepared. And it's getting very in timesy right now, and I just feel like while it's still called today in the words of the Bible, that I should say something or leave something, even though I've left like a skillion videos. But that's the thing. Lord, help me make this video. That's the thing. Every time I'm making a video, it's because I feel like there's more to say. There's more to have people understand because they just don't understand. And I understand that people, God gives people the ears to hear and all of that. And, or maybe you just have them. I don't know how it works, but I do know that you have to have the ears to hear and the eyes to see. And that's such a great expression, anyways. Just a way to describe, like, not that it's subjective, but that, it's going to be accessible to certain people. And it's not about where you grew up. It's not about how you understand, your culture, or your this or your that, or your class, or your whatever. It's like, if you have ears to hear, that's the it's not that it's not discriminatory. It is. It's just not discriminatory on anything that we would discriminate against. It's not, um, God doesn't judge the way that we judge. It's not human judgment. It's not uh, physical appearance of anything. It's just who has the ears to hear, and then who doesn't have the ears are not going to. And it's fair. It's fair, and it's just crazy how the person right next to you could be the one that doesn't hear. You could all be in the same room, and that's part of what is what makes Christianity like kind of uncomfortable for people, because what does that mean when your friends, don't all have the ears to hear? Like, you don't want to draw the conclusion that you want to draw with that. Um, but we don't like the discriminatory nature of truth. Um, just at its core, that word meaning, making distinctions between one thing or another thing. It's like, kind of like how, people are getting married. People getting married. And we all set out to find that special person. We all set out to find somebody who's uh, willing to commit to us, or whatever we might say. And then you get some people who say, "Well, I'm never getting married," and they end up getting married. And you got some people who, um, are come out of the womb planning their wedding, and sometimes those people get married, and sometimes some of those people don't. And we want to just kind of leave it in general terms and just be like, well, life, this and that, or whatever. We don't want to make it about who had the character, and then once you make it to the marriage, then we see whose marriages last whose marriages end up disintegrating, who ends up marrying somebody who wasn't anything like they thought they were going to be, or the opposite happens and you marry somebody and you think that they are abusing you, but they're actually great, and you end up leaving them and you regret that for your rest of your life. It's like all of these different journeys that we're on, and we want to make it seem like, we don't want it to mean anything about us in particular, that our lives are all turning out in these different ways. It's just like, well, life happens. You just happen to meet that person, whatever. Who knows why anything happens? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? You know, but when it comes time to like demonize, if anybody wants to demonize marriage or say that it's not it's outdated or it's, um, enslaves women or whatever. It's like we know how to point the finger then, but like when there's various different, when then you want people to go, okay, well, let's look at this closely. Then nobody really wants to look at it closely because then you might have to like look at yourself. And I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, God knows. So I wouldn't be surprised if God could just show you like down to like each individual decision, like wherever any and all things ever went wrong. And it would have to do with like our own selves. Like it wouldn't surprise me at all. And the people that you think are chumps for, staying in abusive situations, and then, uh, but then like they stick it out, and then it just becomes like a blip in their story, and the larger part of their marriage is just like great. And then some people just suffer until they die, and then somebody else sees that and says, well, I'm never going to do that. And so they end up doing it anyway, or they end up like being the person to inflict the suffering because they're so afraid, like all of these different things. So that seems random, but I wanted to pick something like kind of like non-religious that people do this with, where knowing the answer to something would require like really extensive like um examination, and people aren't really willing to do that. um and they don't want to blame themselves. They want it to just be all this randomly random stuff. Well, who knows why things happen, and then they leave it like that. But then when you do that, then you have like inaccurate information on like why you should get rid of something, because and then you end up like going, well, maybe let's just get rid of it. Maybe it's not any good because you haven't like, I don't know. I'm just saying weird stuff now, but I think it's the same way with God, like, and just at a base level, like some people have ears to hear and some people don't. I mean, they're in the same family, they're in the same friend group. Um, it's 1 out of 100. It's 50 out of 100, or maybe it's 99 out of 100, and you're the one that doesn't understand. And so then it's like, well, what does that make me? And it's scary, but like, I just feel like we've spent our entire modern culture not examining that. And so now you don't have any answers. You don't have any answers. Like, when in reality, like, God is the ultimate, and you just need to do whatever you need to do to like be saved, because God wants to save everybody. So if it turns out that you can't hear God, you can't see God, um, and that makes you feel singled out, and that makes you feel like something is wrong with you, um, you need to accept that quick and then ask God to help you, because like get into a solution mode, because that doesn't mean that you're doomed. That just means like this is the initial information that you need to accept before you can move on. Like God can do anything. Like that scripture where God says, or Jesus says it's impossible for a rich man to get into heaven. It's like near impossible. It's like so many rich people will not make it. And I don't know if anybody saw my hell testimony before um that seems to be the case. Like he made a point of saying that he saw a lot of rich people there and he didn't really see any poor people there. And so that wasn't Jesus just being hyperbolic or whatever. But when he said that, the disciples were amazed because they were just like, well, who can make it then? And it's hard to get into their mindset because after 2,000 years of Christianity, having the poor be elevated probably a great deal since before that. It's hard to understand like what they were so amazed by. We all understand that the poor are rich in faith after 2,000 years of Christianity, and that God, takes care of them and all that. But that I don't know. They were just like, what? They were like, well, then who can make it? And then he says, with God, all things are possible. So, we need to be in a posture of just like begging and just asking God to make something possible. There's nothing impossible for you. So it's just like get over your own defectiveness as much as you can and then come up with some type of solution or just, get on your knees and beg. Like, I don't even know if what I'm saying makes sense right now, but my point is that hurry up and figure out which one that you are, because you don't need to like suppress the truth and wickedness. You don't need to like put it off for another day or say that you don't think that sin is a real concept or all of these other things that you use to like just go back to sleep and not be challenged. Like, you need to go ahead and accept that truth, and then so you can move on and start having your brain kick in with like, well, what do we do now? But as long as you don't do that, that'll never happen. So I just feel like the world at large is, just like this rapture thing, and people being like, okay, well, when the day comes, it's just, I can't even stress how wrong that strategy is. It's like the Three Little Pigs on steroids, just like stupidly bad. Like building your house, like what's more flammable than hay? Like whatever that is what you're building your house out of. It's like fiberglass explosive paper that is used for, it's just like it's not going to protect you. To be like, well, we'll see, and then when the rapture happens, I'll start planning something. It's like, that's crazy. And that is the majority, that's the majority mindset of everybody, even including, I won't say Christians, but like in the Christian faith, like it just seems like there's this majority wherever you go, and the majority never knows what's going on. It's always this minority. And the majority rule in Christianity is that, though it doesn't seem like it, because I think that's just because rapture people are just more interesting. Like if you're on the outside and you're hearing like weird religious ideas, like those are gonna um, spread, or they're gonna make more impact than just people saying no, we don't believe any of that. But the majority doesn't believe any of that, and they think that we're going to be here till the end. Again, that is just because of the mindset of people. Like, and I was guilty of this too when I was like, I don't know, 17 or whatever, but just thinking of the rapture as the end. And it is, but it's not the end. It's like, what good would it be for God to come and rapture everybody at the end. That makes no sense. Uh, and then for that to be the sign that it's all true. Like, talk about not understanding what God is doing with this thing. Like I don't know if it's just because I don't know. Like, if you understand how, I just feel like it's better to understand this whole thing as a story. And that doesn't mean that you think of it like it's not real or not true. What we need to understand is that stories are not just for our entertainment. The fact that stories like pretty much take over our entire brains and our lives, and there's a whole industry dedicated to creating stories primarily for moneymakers for them. But the better the story, the more money they make. And like this is what captivates us, stories. Like, this is a part of our life. Like, that's a big portion of our lives. It's like not thinking that food is important. It's like food, eating like runs our lives, and it's not because we're obsessed, it's because we need it to survive. Like, we need restaurants, and those restaurants need bathrooms because we need to go to the bathroom. Like, these are obvious things that are like, yeah, that's where the money is. The money is where we as humans collectively need the most stuff. We need shelter and food and bathrooms. Like, that's a no-brainer. Like, you can't go wrong in any of those industries. Like, I mean, aside from restaurant industry being like volatile or whatever, but I'm saying like you'll and that's really more of a competition thing. It's not because people don't need to eat. So when people have lots of options, that's what makes the restaurant business volatile. But if there was only one type of place, you opening a restaurant is a good bet. I don't know. That's getting a little bit weird, but the point is, like, stories are just as important to us as food. Like, I know that doesn't seem like that, but that's kind of obvious to me. And the reason why that is because um, we're living a story. Um, yeah, this whole thing is a story. We're meant to perk up when we hear the story. Like, it just lights up our whole brain and like engages the whole thing. So it's because we're in a story. And so when you understand this whole thing as a story and not the tenets of a religion, then it becomes pretty easy to me to understand why things are being done. Like, even the way that the Bible's laid out, like, it's giving you the stakes, it's giving you the characters, it's giving you the setting, it's giving you the conflict, it's giving you the resolution, like everything. So, and it is like the greatest story there is. So you don't have to second guess like why things are being done. Like, think of the greatest movie ever. And like, trust. It's like, oh, the hero died. He's dead. It's like, no, bro. Trust me. That hero, there's more after this. Like, there's no way. This is the greatest story ever in the history of the world. So they didn't kill the hero. Evil didn't prevail. Like, you got to keep just, let's stay tuned in. And yeah, and God gave us the end already. So we know how it's going to end. And then trying to match up the end with our actual reality is seems to be challenging for a lot of people because they don't understand that they're in a story. So the idea that it could culminate into nothing is ridiculous. It's never going to happen. Oh, well, it's just going to all be nothing. It's all just, this idea that reality is the reference point. Like, what matters is what's real. And like, it's like the real reality is dictates our story. It's like, no, this isn't even, um, this isn't a special. I don't even know what I'm saying, but it's just like, it's like watching a movie and like listening to them talk about like you have actors act out the parts. None of the actors, they're in it. They are not going, well, this isn't. Let's just see what happens. It's like, what? No, the story dictates what happens, not the reality. There is no reality without the story. So, and then like it just blows my mind that every single thing that happens is related to something that God said or is in the Bible, or like every revolution we're having, every trend, every cultural phenomenon is directly attacking some biblical principle. Like there's nothing in the world that has ever happened that's just like a neutral, non that doesn't have to do with the biblical concept of spirituality and man and sin. Like, not everything is a sin. It's never something like, oh, there's a controversial thing where, people are uh, cutting down the top, 2/3 of a tree and then turning them into popsicle stick houses for dwarves. Like, it's never like it could be anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's always something to do with uh I don't know. It's always like, and it's always like straight for the jugular. It's like, should women have children? It's like, what? It's never like, and you could say, oh, well, that's because that stuff is important. But why? Why is all of that the stuff that's important, that's impactful, is all the stuff that the Bible speaks specifically about against? Like, it's always that. It's like you turn on the TV and it's like new controversial thing, and it's going to be some blasphemous thing that's like trying to destroy the image of God. It's like so stupid. There's nothing that happens that isn't about, that isn't like a direct shade or shout out to God's creation. So, the Christians aren't paranoid. We're not like having delusions of grandeur here. Everything that happens has to do with one of them 10 commandments. It's like insane. It's insane that no one else sees that, or they take it for granted. Maybe they do see it. But I mean, there's only 10. There's only 10. Why isn't there more random stuff? Why isn't it like, should people be counting past 1 million? It's never like these, it's never that. It's like, can we marry robots? Can we do, it's always some weird moral thing. So this is the story. where nobody's talking about Hindus millions of gods. And the thing is, like, we really need to just stop being so. Um, we really got tricked into being more respectful of people's religions, because then people don't care about their religions. They for them, their religions are ways to get ahead in life. They got no they got no devotion. You got a couple of people who might have a misplaced, you know, because they got the lottery numbers one time or whatever. And so now their God is that's their God now. It's like he helped me, I prayed to him and I got, some free whatever. I don't know. But the point is, like, they'll go wherever, people in general will go wherever the life is, and they should. That's why Jesus was like, listen, you literally go everywhere. And, if they don't accept you, shake the dust off your feet and go to the next one. And if they accept you, great. And they're probably going to, flog you and do all this stuff because they feel insulted, whatever. Just keep doing it. Because he knows, he created everything and he understands humans. He understands that there's no respecting of gods, aside from the fact that he is he has every right to sort of pitch his thing to you. He knows that people aren't just like how every other religion assumes that your religion is like theirs. Christians assume that their religion is like ours, and they have like a real affection and connection to their faith, whatever that is, and they don't. They're practicing it to get stuff. That's what they think it is, anyways. That's why they're so insulted by Christians trying to, like, convert them, because it's like, how's your thing better than mine? You're out here trying to get stuff. Out here trying to get stuff, and it's like, no, it's not the same. So, and you got to show them that. And so, and then after a while, I think they get it. They go, oh, this is different. Like, you're actually like, your God can be approached. You can talk to him. He gives you stuff. Like, he's a person. And recently I've been watching a lot of, like, I don't know, I've been getting on like apologetic TikTok or whatever. And so a lot of like Muslims, there's a particular Islam, a guy who was formerly a Muslim, and he uh, debates with other Muslims, and he don't pull no punches. I think because Islam just has a lot of, it's very hard ground to sort of break up and get anything planted. You got to get through all of that propaganda, because the devil has a way of mimicking God, and but it ultimately, like, it falls apart. Like, I don't know, it's just like, it's like when your parent might tell you, like, don't go here, don't go there, because that parent loves you, and then the devil will be like, listen, don't go in this room, or don't leave this whatever, and it's really to cover for him. It doesn't have anything to do with love for you. It's not concerned for you. He's just trying to protect himself. And so, we all know how those can look the same. It's like your boyfriend. It's like, if you trust me, you're gonna, like, never check my phone and look in there. But I ought to be able to look in your phone because, I'm, it's my job to protect you, or whatever crap thing you could say. Like, and just having to, like, work through all of those lies. So there's a lot of things in Islam that just um, have this like devout air and all of these things, but it's really just like what, why are they? And what's funny is like we might be inclined as Christians to just sort of live in peace with Muslims or whatever, or live alongside Muslims, because that is what the Bible says, to live as well as you can, live in peace with everyone. But then it's like it's almost like they misunderstand that, and then they want to be like, how can your God have a son? It's like, bro, I know you're not trying to have a conversation with me, because we will talk. Like, if you're ready to have a conversation, like, you really just thought like me not saying anything to you was an invitation to get for you to try and convert me. It's like, oh, no, 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 no. That's not what's going on. That's not what's going on. So, but at the same token, like, I think everybody understands, like, if you're part of a religion that you think is the right one, then naturally you should talk to other people about it. So I feel like, the Muslims try to sort of confront us on, how can God have a son and all these things, because they believe in their religion. And so, the devil tries to do as much as he can. It's like trying to get like your girlfriends to not find out that they exist, you know. But eventually, you set up all these rules to make sure nobody talks to anybody else. But eventually you're gonna have a conversation and go like, "Well, no, my religion says this. Well, why did yours say that?" Okay, mine says that like Jesus is God. It's like, well, mine says, like, I can't imagine having a religion where Jesus is a prophet, he's venerated as this and that and the other thing. Everything but the fact that he died on a cross and was crucified. Like, don't, no, no, no. It's like, wow, that just so happens to be like the central needed part of mine. Isn't that weird? It's kind of like, oh, well, when I was at, like, where were you at 7 o'clock? I was out at the museum with my boyfriend. And you mean my boyfriend? Like, he's working between these hours. No, he's with me during those hours. It's like, that's what starts to happen when these religions get together and start figuring piecing stuff together. And that's ultimately, I think, why the world will say, oh, does everybody respect everybody's religion and don't try to have a conversation, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, religious tolerance and all. It's like, no, no, you don't want us to get down to the bottom of this thing here, is what it is. um and that's, the devil, but the culture works on the devil's behalf all the time, because it's one and the same. Like, I hate to break it to you, but there's God's way and then there's all the other ways, and that's just it. So um a lot of people spend a lot of time working for the devil, even though, indirectly or not, that's what they're doing. But it ain't got to be directly for, the wages of sin to be death. Like, I mean, this is super ranty, but yeah, I just feel like I'm probably going to leave like 5 things today. I just feel like I just need to get some gospel messages out, and just like different things that I've been thinking about, but um just like restating the gospel multiple times from multiple angles. Like, how about this? Would you believe it if I said it like this? Okay, this is what's going on. Like, I don't know. So, it's just, but it's also wild to me, like how, I don't know, just like when people want to talk to you about it or reason with you about it, they don't realize like how impossible it is to have a conversation about something that is spiritual and from God. Like, we can't talk about it. You have to just believe it. You have to receive it. which sounds like a cop out, but I can't help that. I can't help that it's not like the way that people go, well, what about this and what about that? Like you can explain it to them a little bit, but if somebody doesn't believe in the concept of sin, like there's no conversation to be had. Like if I say, do you believe that that sin exists? That sin is a real concept? Like, and you say no, then we can't go any further. So, the amount of time it would take somebody to go through, I don't know. It really, like, it also gets, like, you see how it gets down to, like, what a person's choice, a person's will. Like, if somebody doesn't want to entertain a thought or an idea, it will not be entertained. It will not get in there. It's so funny. People think that free will is like this, like poetic. I don't know the arguments against free will, but to me, like understanding, like just using the metaphor of like a video game or the concept of a video game, completely obliterates the idea that we don't have free will. I don't know what people expect the free will to do, but like if you play a video game, the video game exists, the world exists. You can sort of like I don't know. It's almost like when if you are allowed to like name your own character and pick him out and make him look this and that, that's enough to make people feel like they have free will. Because that's the only thing that we don't have here is to be able to do that. So you got a video game, and even when you have like decisions that can be made, these sprawling open world games where you can make choices and all of that, which people really, they can get immersed in that. And everything in that game is pre-programmed. The end is pre-programmed. Your choices are pre-programmed. Like, do you not have free will to play the game though? Like, you obviously can still play the game even with such a limited, as brilliant and as open world as a game can be. It's got nothing on the real world. It's got nothing on the real world. And the real world is basically the same thing. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, we're made in the image of God. You made a video game, you're doing the exact same thing that God is doing. First of all, you gotta create the thing first. You gotta conceptualize it in here first. You gotta set it all up first and create a world for someone to inhabit first. And then you have someone inhabit it last. Like, just these things alone, and you're thinking of populating the world. I mean, it's 99.9999999% stolen from the world that we live in. Like, so it's not completely original. It's 99% plagiarized. But that little 1% of originality of the world that's created, whether it's another planet or whatever, it's futuristic, it's dystopian, it's zombies, whatever. If you're even if your decisions are pre-planned because the game is only so large and it can only hold so much, um so many like individualized options, you still play it. It's still fun, it's still unpredictable, you still don't know what's going to happen, and you're still enjoying yourself because you are choosing what to do. Like, I don't know. I guess people just need to not feel responsible for the stuff that happens to them, or I don't know. But yeah, everyone's got free will out here. I don't understand. But a lot of it starts in here. So, I don't know. I think I'm just inwardly I'm responding to a lot of debates that I've been watching, or a lot of like little snippets of, these Christian apologists that have to go to these college campuses and like break down the basics to these poor babies is like so scary and sad, and like it's just so clear like that we're in the last days, because we can't even retain ideas for longer than a generation. Like we can't. It's just, I just saw a thing about like the furries at school, like these kids dressed up as animals, and the schools are allowing the kids to be animals. You're not allowed to, like, that's their privilege to sort of have leashes on and wag their tails and bite and have litter boxes in the bathroom. Like, can we just get out of here? Like, what are we doing? That generation is going to grow up and do what exactly? It's going to figure out space travel. We're done. We're done. Like, it's been 2,000 years. Probably as soon as we hit 2,000 years to the day, we're going to start. And again, like, the rapture is not the end. Like, it's not the end. It's the end. It's not even the end for the people getting raptured. Like, it's just, if you know that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have eternal life, that God literally gave his own life for this process, that the humans are the most valuable resource to God that there is. That's why we love our neighbors. That's why we do all these things for each other. Not because they're moral and it makes us look good and feel good and makes us look like decent people, but because people are the most valuable thing on the earth. And but not it doesn't mean that any and all people that have breath, but people are the most valuable. Of those, who do we choose? Who do we pick that gets to live forever? Who gets to go on with God? Who gets to go on to the next place? How do we choose? How do we choose? Okay. Not by human judgment. We don't judge by human judgment. We judge by spiritual judgment. What is spiritual judgment? Those who have ears to hear, those who have eyes to see. 100% fair. Everybody's got a pair of these. Everybody's got a pair of these. Oh, mine don't work. Okay, well, we're talking about the spiritual eyes and the spiritual ears. The spiritual senses. Everybody's got a pair of that. 2 pairs. So, that's what we're going by. And they might, it's across the board. It's all different types of people. It could end up being one big swath of the same type of person. Whatever. That's not discriminatory, because it's not about anything physical. So, it could be hardly any of these people. It's very rarely is it an equal distribution across all different whatevers. But sometimes it can be. So anyways, yeah. Then, it's got to come to an end. He's got to end the final, you know. And to be honest, 2,000 years of harvesting is monumental. It's monumental. Like, this thing was so much larger than what any man could have conceived. So, our generation isn't the only generation that matters. Like, and if only a few out of our generation make it, that's not a reflection on all of Christendom. It's just like, this is the last. These are the last days. Everything's decaying, everything's getting zombified, everything's decomposing. So, yeah, of course, it's not going to be that much. But here's the thing about God, He's not about to lose anything. He's not about to lose anything. So, at the very, very end, it's like the Titanic. The Titanic was going down for a long time before it sank. And the rapture would be like the moment on the Titanic where the electricity stops working and the lights go out. But there's still more after that. So it's like, yeah, where the church gets raptured, and the church in its current form. Well, guess what? God's going to use that to get even more. And he's going to get some more after that. And then guess what? He's going to use that to get even more after that. And there might be fewer and fewer and fewer, but he's not losing anybody. He's not wasting anything. So anybody that could possibly go with a little bit more of a wake-up call, with a little bit more of a shaking, with now a slapping. Now if he's got to cut off one of your limbs, but guess what? The rest of your body gets to go to heaven. That's what he's going to do. So there's the current church right now, the current group of people who are going that don't need to be shook. We're awake. We're going. Then there's going to be, after that, that's going to wake up some more people. Then they're going to get to go if they can withstand the tribulation. Then after that, yet even more people. So, but by and large, the majority of the thing is going down because it's just time. It's been collecting water for 2,000 years, and now the lights are going to go out. There's strange, it's been making noises for so long, making weird, eerie, boat noises for so long. And we keep going, oh, everybody get ready. And people are going, I told you nothing was going to happen. Then a little more time goes by. Really long, to the point where that's like people's reality. Oh yeah, every once in a while the boat just kind of makes some eerie noise for 5 minutes. Everybody just stops their conversation. Then they keep going. And everybody's like, this boat's going down, y'all. Yeah, you guys have been saying that because this is a really good boat. It's a really good boat. That's why it hasn't gone down. Not because we're wrong and we're fear-mongering. It's like, oh no. It's not because we're just running around like silly people. Well, I'll believe it when I start sinking and I can't breathe anymore. That's a great time to start believing that, that this thing is actually sinking. Everybody put your life jackets on. Put your life jackets on. Oh my gosh, it's more fear mongering. I can't ballroom dance in my life jacket. I can't, it's too uncomfortable. So, but you could frame, if it's reframed in any way, or framed wrongly in any way, then yeah, you'll just never get it. You'll never get it. The only frame that works is the proper one. Like, and it's hard to convince people which the what the proper framing is. You can sort of point to them to the evidence of things, but especially when you get people who want to reframe it again into something that's like making it not that. It's like, what do you do with that? When somebody wants to just make it not be that, what do you do with that? It's like, okay, so you don't want to know this. You don't want to see it like this. Like you want to just believe that Christian people are out here being crazy because we need to be, because it's something we need to do. We need to have these beliefs. We're different from all other people on the planet in that we need to believe this way. And then it's like, if that's true, why are you debating with me? Like, if I felt like there's just a group of people that are schizophrenic and they have weird ideas, like, and there's nothing to do about it, it can't be helped. They need to be like that. Like, I wouldn't have debates with them. So that's how we also know that we need to keep going, and they're full of crap. Because why are we even having a debate? Why are you leaving a comment? Why, what, like, what do you need to, why do you need to, like, why would you need to, like, for me, if nothing ever was going to happen, and I knew that nothing was ever going to happen, I wouldn't bother talking to someone who believed that something was going to happen, because they're going to eventually see that nothing's going to happen. So there's no incentive for me to, like, even if you want to be like, no, we have to like talk them down and make sure that they don't like hurt themselves or somebody else because they believe something's going to happen when it isn't. Like, that's not even a thing. That's not even a thing. Like, because everybody knows that the truth is the best teacher of reality. You know, gravity is the best teacher. I don't need to convince you that you can't fly. Like, at best, I might put a mattress down for you for when you inevitably break your spine. But I don't need to, like, we have to go and show them that we got to show them that they can't fly. It's like, what? You don't have to let that person go and do that, because if they're convinced of that, like, there's nothing you can do to stand in their way. So we know that that's how the truth works. Even if you don't believe what I believe, we all know that that's how the truth works. So, um, you know, if we're all truth seekers, then non-truth shouldn't bother you at all, and you shouldn't feel like you need to get involved with it. But everybody feels like they need to silence the Christians and laugh at the Christians, mock the Christians. Like, it's just so clearly desperate. Like, and I don't know. Even though I do see, like, sometimes people are genuinely like taken aback when they hear like the certain things that we believe. They're just like, oh my gosh, people actually believe this. But, and I can understand like wanting to have a little bit of pushback of like, well, what about this and what about that? Um, but I think if you get into a debate with somebody as a Christian and you're bringing up some good points, then that becomes scary, because then it's like you started out with like thinking they're crazy. And then if they can like actually hold their own in a debate, then it's like, let's just stop talking about it. Because I don't want to get you're crazy on me. Like, I don't want to start thinking crazy too. So, I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. So what is it, like 8 o'clock? I gotta like call my plumber. I got issues with my. Don't even ask. It's just a drama. But yeah. So I'm gonna just yap. I'm gonna just yap in the name of Jesus because, like, I don't know. I'm trying to formulate some thoughts, and it's like I can't. Like, it doesn't matter anyway. Like, I feel like I said everything 18 times, and I just feel like another perfectly laid out, thought, planned out thing that's just going to sound like me ranting, anyways. I mean, I'll welcome it if it comes, but by and large, like, I just feel like I should talk it out. If I leave, like, if these videos stay up and people discover them and stumble upon them, I would want them to, I don't want people to feel like this is like most Christian videos, which is always just like optimized for content. It's like, you know what? Just put this on in the background and pretend like you got a ranty Christian friend that talks about Jesus and things that matter. Like, I don't know. Is that a genre yet? It's not quite a podcast. Not quite a. Oh, that's my alarm clock. It is 8 o'clock. All right. Well, I'm gonna go. That's gonna. Can you hear that? That's my outro music. It's been me signing off, and I will talk to you later. Bye.